Welcome back to another GTN Coaches Corner, where you basically treat us like your own personal triathlon coaches. You can send in your triathlon related questions using the hashtag GTN Coaches Corner in the comment section below this video, or any video for that matter, and we will answer them for you. This week, I'm going to be answering questions like, should I eat protein for long distance racing, pacing a 5K PB, making the most of short swim sessions, are carbon running shoes for me, and why can't I push hard on my run sessions? So, first one from Jamie Furman. Is it more important to think about carbs or calories per hour when fueling for long distance racing? Is it really optimal to rely solely on carbs for caloric intake via gels, chews, etc., and have no protein or fat? Well, firstly, just to answer the first part of that question, when we're talking about fuel per hour for racing, we're normally talking about calories. But this is almost interchangeable with carbohydrates or carbs per hour. To answer the second part of the question, fats and proteins for racing, well, broadly speaking, and more so for the shorter and faster racing, fats and proteins are best avoided for racing, and that is because they are harder and take longer to break down. Fat, for instance, have to be emulsified, broken down into fatty acids, which is obviously a far too slow process where we want that quick release of energy, which is why we normally solely rely on carbohydrates. Now, to give you a bit of context, we get 4 calories per gram of carbs. So say you take on 30 grams of carbs, which is quite often what we get in a single energy gel, that's 120 calories. Now, we often talk about that magic sweet spot of 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour in racing, particularly for 70.3 racing and Ironman racing, with a lot of the pros actually trying to push that to well above 100 grams of carbs per hour. So just bear that in mind as a bit of a guide for your fueling strategies. Now, to come back to the proteins and fats discussion. Now, proteins are proven to slow down the breakdown of muscle, which could actually be useful as we start to go longer, maybe in Ironman racing or even longer in ultramarathon racing, just to sort of slow down that breakdown of the muscle and actually make you maybe feel better in the latter stage of the race and recover better. Also, it can actually just help with the monotony of just taking on lots of sugary products like gels and chews. So just something else to bear in mind. Right, next question from David Morton. I have a Garmin Forerunner which estimates my lactate threshold heart rate and pace of 6:15, as well as predicting my 5K race time of 26:17. To achieve this race prediction, I would have to run the race well above threshold pace, which would work out at 31:15 for 5K. But if I did this, I could tie quickly and slow down in the second half. One of your videos proposes even pacing, but which pace should I aim for? Alternatively, I could use threshold heart rate instead of pace. I would run faster for the first 10 minutes and slow down to keep the heart rate down and have a sprint near the finish if I got anything left. What would be your best or advised strategy? So basically you're asking, how do you pace a 5K, which is an incredibly hard thing to do. To answer your second question about using heart rate and setting off super fast in the first 10 minutes, please don't do that. That would be an absolutely horrific experience for you as you start to die in the second half of the race. It won't be pleasant. You probably won't sign up to another 5K again. For the race prediction, a 5K is above your lactate threshold, so you should expect it to be above your threshold pace. So it's not wrong in suggesting a time that's faster. However, I think your Garmin might be suggesting a little bit of an ambitious time, or your lactate threshold pace is too slow, because normally we're talking around, loosely speaking, 10 to 15 seconds per kilometre quicker in a 5K compared to your lactate threshold. So you might want to have take a look at that. When it comes to pacing, as I've suggested, just make sure that you even pace with a 5K. Adrenaline and all the energy at the start line can get you fired up and end up running a bit too fast at the start, but just try and hold back a little bit. Right. Next one from Rebecca Harrison. Hey all, I have been back at university for a couple of weeks, and as classes are getting started, I'm back to fitting in my training around my class schedule. However, the pool schedule is a big limiting factor and it is open at strange times. With that, I can only get in the pool for about half an hour, 3 times a week, with only one longer session. How would you suggest structuring these shorter sessions to get the most out of the half hour? The trap you could fall into with this is going, well, I've got such a limited time, I'm just going to get in, I'm going to get as much distance covered as possible. As we've discussed a lot here on the channel, that isn't the best way to maximize your time swimming. You want to make sure that you're getting quality out of those swims. So my suggestion would actually be turning up to those swims with a goal and an aim in mind and following a structured swim session. Yes, you might have covered, say, 1,600 meters in the half hour had you just swum continuously, and maybe you'll only cover 1,300 meters with a structured swim session with breaks in it, but you're going to get far more from that. You could also just make sure that you're not taking quite as long recoveries. If there are some unnecessary wasted times in sessions where you just sat around the end of the wall, just be a bit more disciplined with that. Other things you can do outside of the swimming pool is just working on some strength work that will just actually transfer and translate to the swimming pool too. So yeah, you can actually do quite well with the amount of time that you've got there. Right, next one from 3 Walking Poles. Benefits of using carbon plate running shoes. Do weight, pace, stride have impact, incline, etc.? Do they have any influence? And at what point spending a little fortune for the shoes makes no sense? Well, simple and quick answer to this is carbon shoes can benefit anyone, regardless of your shape, your size, your weight, and your pace. These modern running shoes and carbon shoes with these modern foams in them are absolutely phenomenal. Now, there are a couple of caveats though. Firstly, some carbon shoes don't work for some people. It can be quite personalized or individual. So what might work for one may not work for another. So you maybe do need to search around, find the right ones that you feel most comfortable, feel like you're getting benefit from. And secondly, carbon shoes do take a bit of getting used to. They do feel a little bit unusual initially as they really sort of spring you forwards and off the toe. So you may find you actually, whilst you may not feel fantastic straight away, you may actually after time. And then also finally, it really is up to you. You don't have to use carbon shoes. If you're just wanting to get into running or maybe just trying to better a PB, you can actually do that in a normal pair of running shoes. But if you really are trying to better your times and you're really trying to take it to that next level and you're racing against other people that are beating you in carbon shoes and you want to beat them, then fine, go for it. And I'd say you validate that want or that need. Right, final one from Christian Worth, 6965. Any tips on how to motivate for hard efforts while running? I can easily motivate myself to really go into the red while cycling, both anaerobic efforts as well as longer sweet spot efforts. However, when running, I find it difficult to go beyond zone 2. Might this be linked to having to train fasted due to only having very limited time in the morning? I can relate to this because I also find I often have to just run in the morning. Certainly running fasted will have an impact on how hard you can push. Your body and your mind is far more willing to push hard once it's woken up and it feels it has fuel there to burn. So I would probably, if I was you and you're finding this quite hard to get the effort out or the intensity in the mornings and it's your only option, is actually setting off and maybe taking a light snack or gel with you or chews with you, something you can digest quickly on the go because clearly you haven't got time to sit down and have a bowl of cereal or whatever it may be. And just as you're doing a warm-up, take a gel on and it'll probably start to kick in during the session and you'll probably just get a bit of a psychological actually surge as you take that food in. Another thing, also just making sure that you're warming up well, maybe before the session, doing a few hill sprints and things just to really sort of get your body fired up. But great question. Let me know how you get on with that in the comment section down below, or if anyone else actually has some suggestions, because I imagine Christian isn't alone on this and many people are actually having to squeeze sessions in the morning. So if you've tried and tested and found out a good method for this and you've struggled with it yourself, then let us know in the comment section down below. But you keep your questions coming in using that hashtag GTN Coaches Corner. And see you next time.